Welcome back to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. Today, if you want to make money online and you want to do it building with code and are curious about AI, but even if you've never coded before, buckle up for this episode because I'm obsessed. So I've been so excited for this podcast because I'm sort of a tech Neanderthal, but I've been going down a rabbit hole of AI. I hired a guy who's actually good at it. And it almost feels to me like there's a world before I realized all the things we could do online, and now there's a world afterwards. And almost everything my employees do, everything I do in business, I'm like, wow, why are we doing it the way we did last year? Because it almost doesn't make sense anymore. And what's crazy to me about you is you figured this out at like 6. I think, like, is it a true story that when you were 6 years old in Jordan, you were already coding and building software apps?
Yeah. So my father got a computer before anyone I knew back in Amman and Jordan in the early 90s. And so one of my really earliest vivid memories was standing behind the shoulders on my dad, kind of unboxing this machine, pulling out this huge manual, open it up, and you had to read a manual. There's no internet at the time, and sort of finger typing on the keyboard. And I was just fascinated by it. This idea that you can like talk to this machine and like convey what you want to build and you can build it. I'm still, it's just still gives me goosebumps. So just the idea of like creation, being able to be creative without a lot of resources, or, you don't have to build a real physical thing. All you need is this machine. And so I got into it immediately and started building apps. The first thing that I built was a math teaching app for my younger brother. So it will be like a, formula, 1 + 1 = blank. He puts in 2, he gets a clap. He puts in 3, he gets a boo. And it worked out. Now he works for me. So.
Wow. I love that. Yeah. I don't know what kind of Wheaties they had in Jordan, but that's like, I had, Lincoln Logs and Legos. But then, what's kind of crazy is then you had a 180 basically from that, which is it true that afterwards, not so long ago, you actually turned down $1 billion as an acquisition price for your company when you only had 6 employees? What happened?
Yeah. We had started the company in 2016, and the mission behind the company is to create 1 billion coders, 1 billion programmers, 1 billion developers, whatever you want to call it. And I just felt in my heart of hearts that we're at a point where anyone can make software. I felt like the AI is progressing really fast, just cloud systems, everything that was coming online made it so that anyone could really be able to do this thing that have fundamentally changed my life. Got me from Jordan in a sort of lower income family all the way to the US, become an entrepreneur, joining Y Combinator, the most prestigious startup accelerator. And in 2018, just after we did Y Combinator, we kind of bootstrapped for a couple of years. Then we did Y Combinator. Maybe 2019, we got this acquisition offer from a really big company. And obviously it was a lot of money, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I just felt like they're gonna take the company, not gonna do anything interesting with it, and I'll make the money, and maybe I'll quit 2 or 3 years after that and create the same company. So I thought, I like this company, I might as well keep going. And I always felt like if we get to a point where we achieve even 1% of our mission, this could be a much bigger company. And we achieved that valuation a few years ago, and the company is probably valued more today.
Walk me through that moment. So you get an offer, you meet a guy, I don't know how it works.
Yeah.
And did you seriously contemplate it? Were you like, I need to sleep on this?
Yeah, I did. It wasn't like a knee-jerk reaction, kind of like $1 billion, I'm just gonna. And I talked to our investors, and I remember talking to Mark Andreessen, who's invented the web browser, Netscape, and he's now running Andreessen Horowitz, very prestigious investment firm. They hadn't just invested in Replit. He goes, look, we'll pocket the profit. We just invested in you, and we're going to make a lot of money. But what do you want? Like, what are you going to do afterwards? Do you want to go work for this big tech company and become like corporate employee, or do you want to keep going on your mission? And I talked to a bunch of other people, and I kind of felt like the weight of Silicon Valley was on my shoulder. Like everyone really believed in what we're doing. And I didn't want to let people down. I also just kind of didn't want to let our users down, our customers, our dreams, and I also felt like I have the kind of skills to always be able to make good living. And I think, we all know that after a certain level of wealth, your life doesn't really change all that much. And so I like money. I don't want to make it seem like I think money is a great thing. I think it gives you a lot of freedom and comfort in order to achieve more things. And I think the thing that I'm most attracted to is building great things.
Yeah. Yeah, because, it's not like now Replit seems like this gargantuan, right? Like 100 million in annual recurring revenue. I look at your little chart and just, whoa. I mean, it's pretty wild to look at. But it took you 9 years to even get to your first $10 million in revenue, right? Like you weren't really making any money at all for multiple years.
Yeah.
You were burning cash.
That's right.
First your own, then a little bit of YC, then a little bit of third-party investors. It's not like this was an overnight success at all.
No.
And so I'm curious, did you ever have a moment where you were like, we are not going to make it and I'm not good enough and this company's not going to work out?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in 2024, early 2024, so last year, the company had not been growing all that much. We're kind of hit a plateau and started decreasing a little bit. So we were in this awkward position where we make it easy enough to get started, but not enough to get you all the way to building a business or a real piece of software. And because our focus is on getting everyone to make applications, anyone with a dream, without any skill or background in computer science, should be able to come to Replit and make an app. That was always the kind of the core of the mission. We're also not very good for professional developers because they needed all these tools that we didn't have. And so we were in this like awkward middle and not making any revenue and have this really large staff, 130 people, had raised $200 million. And as you talk about it in the book, like, there are businesses that you could build that provide a lot of, profit and good living for yourself. And you have complete, control of what you do. But once you take on venture capital, there's almost a contract you're implicitly kind of getting into, which is, I'm going to build $1 billion company. I'm going to build something really scalable, really big. And I take that responsibility seriously as well. So I felt like the only way to really achieve our mission and for the business to take off is to invent an automated coder so that you go to Replit and you really don't have to learn to code at all. And so we lay off almost half the team. Oof. We move out of San Francisco because San Francisco is such a bubble. I'm sure kind of LA is the same here, but everyone's talking all the time. There's FOMO all the time. Everyone's going to like parties, and we move out of San Francisco. We go down to the South Bay. We get this office in the suburbs, and we're like, okay, we're going to spend 3-4 months trying to invent this new thing. And we felt that technology is sort of getting there in terms of AI. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, like, I don't know what I'm going to do afterwards. Maybe look for an acquisition or something like that. And it wouldn't have been a pretty nice acquisition. It wouldn't have been $1 billion acquisition. So we start building it. And I think even 2 weeks in, we felt like we had something that could change the world. And so we launched in September 2024. And it was the first coding agent on the market where you can just like put a prompt and it will like make you an application. It will create a database for you. It will like put it out, deploy it and scale it for you, do all of that. And it went viral. And we just put out like a small video, very low production on a cell phone, and it went super viral. And our revenue that year climbed to 10 million ARR. And then when we got out of beta and the agent got really good, that's when we went to 100 million ARR in a matter of 6-7 months.
That's wild. What's interesting though, and why I was so attracted to what you do is because it could sound corny to say, I want to create 1 billion coders. You're like, okay, Silicon Valley, typical mission, put a
Spell tech
billion in
bro.
front thing. Yeah, exactly. Except I've used the product and like not an ad, but it's incredible, especially for somebody who's really not tech advanced. And I really associated to it because I think, our mission at Contrarian Thinking is to create millions of owners. And I think that sounds cheesy to people who would rather have, I don't know, a couple $1 billion in assets under management as an investment firm instead. And I think there are a lot of people that say, no, people who want AI just want to concentrate all the power.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing the opposite of it. So why don't you explain to people what exactly Replit is and why it's revolutionary, and maybe even how could somebody use it today to change their life?
Yeah. Look, technology had always had two visions: the massive centralized mega corporation, mega government, surveillance state vision, the dystopian future. That's sort of like the Matrix and all these different movies. But there was always also a vision of the sort of the hacker in their basement that are building amazing thing, or the startup founders in their garage, or the Bitcoin crypto hackers who can like create systems of money and encryption outside of the control of governments and things like that. So that vision existed always. And at any given time, like when the internet started, it started as this idea of decentralized, empower the people thing. And then over time, we centralized on kind of a few big tech companies and things like that. And now we're at a moment of time where there could be another shift. And that shift could send us into more centralization or bring back power to people so that we can have more owners, more founders, more entrepreneurs, a more dynamic economy. And this is what I'm really passionate about. So what Replit is, it's an automated AI coder. So everyone has ideas. Like I talk to people, I talk to Uber drivers all the time. Everyone has an idea. Everyone is kind of everyone in any field, they are domain experts, right? But they usually do not have the coding skills in order to build an online business or some kind of business using technology because they don't have the skills. So they usually go and they try to find an agency to do it for them. And they get quoted an enormous amount of money, hundreds of thousands, $1 million we sometimes hear. And they give up on that dream because who has that kind of money? Some people go into debt and they still get screwed by the freelancers and all of that. Or their ideas are maybe perhaps need a lot of iteration and they don't have the money for it. So you go to Replit, you put in start with a simplified version of your idea, get an MVP or a prototype, minimum viable product, and you're going to see the AI coder coding in front of you. It'll spend 10 minutes kind of researching, showing you the design. Once you approve the design, it will start building the application, and you'll get a prototype in a matter of 10 minutes. And then you look at it and it'll say, I like this. It has this functionality. Okay, let's add, let's change the color of this button, but also let's add an entirely new feature to the website. And I'll spend another 5 minutes working on this and getting it done for you. And then, you can spend weeks building that business and then launching it. And we hear from entrepreneurs that the other day I was talking to someone who works in venture capital. This is what I was talking about, where everyone has domain knowledge. This VC, he's not even on the investing team, he's on the sort of finance team, understands all the problems and woes of managing a portfolio of companies. And they buy all sorts of software. None of the software works for them, right? I'm sure you can relate. Yep. And so he goes into Replit, spends weeks, nights and weekends, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, building his dream platform to manage his investments. And then he realizes that he has a business on his hands. And he goes and talks to different finance people at different VC companies. They all have the same problems. And he starts showing them software, and everyone was like, we want to buy it now. And he got commitments for 5 million ARR before he quit his job. So in a matter of weeks, he had a business on his hand, and now he quit his job and he has the contracts and the money is flowing in. So that's, everyone has this, think about it as, when Airbnb came on the scene, they found this asset that wasn't monetized. Everyone has space in their home that wasn't monetized. I think everyone has domain knowledge that is not monetized. And the way to monetize that domain knowledge, to scale yourself, you talk about it in your book, the difference between an owner and a worker is the worker kind of trades time for money. I think owners often trade experience for scalable experience for money, right? So putting your experience into a piece of software, and that can scale to hundreds, perhaps thousands, perhaps millions of customers, and you're going to be able to make a lot of money.
It's so true. I mean, what's interesting is, if somebody's never played with AI before, to me, what it looks like is you kind of write, or I now am a voice to text annoying person who uses like whisper flow. And I just say awesome. Out loud the things that I like, that I'd like to build. I would like to build, this exact thing. I want to build a, portfolio dashboard, and I want it to look like XYZ, and I'd like it to be monochromatic and there to be like very simplistic buttons and blah, 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 blah. And you sort of iterate on this continuously. And then on the right-hand side, and we can show it on YouTube if you guys want to watch the video there, it kind of looks to me, because I am not a coder, like what I imagine the Matrix might look like in some ways. And so you have multicolored code that's sort of happening, and you can then you could be over to the left watching Real Housewives or whatever show you watch.
That's right.
And simultaneously, this agent is running.
Yeah.
And so you have a little employee for the first time ever that you get for a couple $100 a month.
That's right.
That kind of does exactly what you want it to do continuously. And so I think you might have just answered this question in some way, but do you think that it is now possible for a single individual, in the case of a few weeks, who has zero coding experience, to build $1 million business with Replit?
Yeah. So we have another entrepreneur. His name is John Chaney, and had this idea. He has some domain knowledge on how to use AI for different kind of things, marketing and storytelling and things like that. And but he hasn't coded ever. He hasn't used AI coding tools, and he wanted to build an education platform to do AI training for consumers or AI training for enterprise. So he wanted to build an entire learning management system and seat-based enterprise software. And he did it in a matter of weeks, and he reached a $1 million+ run rate in a matter of weeks. Now, look, I don't want to make it seem easy. And again, on the way here, I was reading your book, which was really inspiring. And in one thing you say, it's not easy. Entrepreneurship is not easy. And a lot of people, when I come onto these podcasts, I've learned that a lot of people think that I'm selling magic. I'm not selling magic. Like, you're going to go there, the agent is amazing, right? And it's coding for you. And you can go look at the code if you want to learn how it works and ask it how this code works or whatever. But you can also be outside of the code and be acting as a manager. And management is hard. You need to think clearly. You need to communicate clearly. And it's going to get frustrating. The agent, the AI, is going to make errors, and you'll be able to correct it. And it's going to require some resourcefulness. You're probably going to have to do some research. You're going to have to tinker and iterate and spend hours on this. So I think, the people who are successful with entrepreneurship usually have reached a point of their life where something changes in them, and either the boss they hate, or the stresses of money in their lives, or just like the routine work that they hate, and they want to change. They want more thrill in their lives, and they make that decision. And they're like, I'm just going to build something for myself. I want to be an owner. And after you made that decision, you're just gonna do whatever it takes to get it done, right? And I think this is where Replit can help you. But you need to have the grit and the persistence in order to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think the other part that's interesting about what you guys have built is a lot of people who build AI tools or tools with AI or things to help with coding historically have been for the sophisticated professional few,
yes,
which would be similar to finance. It's like in the elite class, you want to speak only to investment bankers. You want to speak only to those on Wall Street. And if you were to normalize finance investing, well, that's too simplistic. That's too low level. And, those people, it's a little bit beneath us to talk to them. And I think a lot of times it seems that there's similarities in engineering and code where it's like, vibe coding, which
That's
is
right.
what people now call this ability to code without having deep experience and being an
Right.
engineer.
You just go off vibes. Yeah.
Right. I was trying to, how would you even define vibe coding, which is now what people only talk about vibe coding on X now, I feel like.
That's right. Yeah. So vibe coding, I would say, is previously, when you have an idea and you want to turn it into code, right? You're turning business logic into hard mathematical constructs, right? And most of your time is spent on that constructs, on the syntax of doing that, which is not really the problem solving that you want to be doing, right? Programmers spend maybe 20% of their time actually thinking about users, the product, and then they spend 80% of their time fighting with the systems, figuring out how to deploy it and scale it and run the database and all of that. So we're trying to take care of all of this nonsense, right? You don't have to worry about it. And the idea behind vibe coding, which I don't think it's the best term, but we're kind of stuck with it, is that you can trust that the AI is making the right decisions based on the vibes that it's giving you. So you are communicating the business goals that you intend to create, and the system is building this on your behalf. And if the vibes are correct, and if you can test it and feel like it's working, you can trust that it works. And 80-90% of the time it does.
So is it a bit like building a house? So like before we knew how to build foundations and we knew how to do, traditional home building, that might have been the unique character trait in a home builder, which is like they can do this thing that we've never done before. They can make a house withstand over time. They can build it correctly. That is actually the most important part in home building. Right. Whereas now today, that's normalized. We've commoditized the fact that yes, we can build houses. Yes, they can withstand things. They can function properly. And now the part that's non-commoditized is essentially design. It's like the people who make the most money are the ones that make the user interface, aka the aesthetic of it, and new functionality on top of it are the ones that get paid more. Is that kind of what you see in the future? Before it used to be engineers like, can you even build this? And now it's like, no, we could build a lot of things. And now it's just, is it beautiful? Is it user-friendly? Can you sell it? And the design component becomes even more important.
I think your business is a good illustration of this, like social media and being able to build this show. Previously, you needed to get on some kind of TV channel, like, 50, 100 years ago, even 20, 30 years ago, you needed some kind of cable channel, you needed some kind of studio to take a bet on you. And now you can go to YouTube, 2 clicks, you have a channel. And so what's left? That's a commodity, right? Like having a presence online is a commodity. What's left is charisma, is creativity, is grit. Again, grit is the thing, right? Like you have to keep going. You just keep showing up. And, a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that. It's a truism. It's a cliche, but it's true. You have to show up day after day after day, learn, become 1% better every day, which adds up to enormous amount of progress in a matter of month or a year. And if you do that consistently, you're going to be at the top of your game. You're going to be able to stand out from the pack. Because look, most people are lazy. Most people just don't want to do a lot of work. They're happy with which is nothing wrong with that. No judgment. Like, a lot of people work hard and they want to, spend time with their family. They don't want to change too much things about their lives.
They're probably like happier and more well-adjusted than we are.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to that. I think entrepreneurs, there's always something, either a chip on the shoulder or some dark past or something like that.
Yeah, one of my friends had the best line. He was like, entrepreneurship is a trauma response. And I was like, you're probably right.
That's probably true. Yeah, you feel like you have something to prove or something. Yeah. But it could fundamentally change your life to the better. And I think what's left. So similarly to YouTube, now in software and apps and business making and online businesses, it is the domain knowledge, I think, is the main thing. If you understand something really deeply, or you can go learn it really deeply, you can go build a business around it, right? We have stories of people who work on event management. And this woman, she knows exactly what it needs to create an event, where to find the venue, the caterer, the marketing, the everything. And she created an AI agent that can go do all of that. You put in a prompt, you'll say, I want to create an event around X, Y, and Z. It'll create a plan. It'll go, get you in contact with the vendors. And she turned a non-scalable business that she had, which is helping people with events, to a fully scalable AI solution. Then she get paid for while she sleeps.
Yeah, it's wild. One of my biggest annoyances in all my businesses is dashboards. It's always it's always hard to find the exact dashboard, how my brain works, that I want to see stats.
Me too.
I always want to have like scoreboard based leadership, right? Like I can tell instantly, are we behind? Are we in front? What's happening here?
Yeah, I wake up in the morning, I need to look at my dashboard.
Me too.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I just end up bothering everybody all the time, asking them where shit's at, right?
Yeah.
And so if I can see it, I'm like, oh, here's the project management. I can see if you're red, yellow, green. Are we moving forward? And also like, is our business on track or not, et cetera. And so I built one with you guys. And so anyway, I'll show it here. It's not pretty, and I'm an idiot at this stuff. So if I can do it, that anybody can do it. Amjad, and every CEO I know who is serious is obsessed with being able to see their business in one dashboard. You heard him say he couldn't wake up in the morning without looking at the dashboard to figure out if his business was working or not. I'm the exact same way. I do it all on my phone in something that we call the contrarian operating system. It's a dashboard that we teach people to build in the boardroom step by step so that your business can be seen in 30 seconds, whether you're going to hit your goals or not. I think CEOs that run businesses without an operating system and a dashboard is kind of like driving a car high speed down a highway without knowing how fast you're going, without knowing what the GPS says to do, and also without even being able to see if you're in park, neutral, reverse, or drive. And so I am obsessed with what we've built in the boardroom. I think every single business owner is going to want to figure out how to get this operating system and how to get with a group of people who help you implement it. If this is interesting to you, this is all we do in the boardroom, is obsess on getting owners to get to the next level with the tools and team they need to hit their next $10 million in revenue. If that's interesting to you, you can click the link and get on a consulting call with my team. So if you're like a young person who hasn't figured out how to make money yet, and you don't know what you want to do with your career, but you're curious about this AI thing, what would you tell them to do today? Where does a young person start?
I would say do the same thing that you've always done, get a job, find an industry you like or you're interested in, and go into that. And what you're going to find is massive inefficiencies. People do things still there's still faxes around in many businesses. People use pen and paper for so many things. Old software still exists. There's so many, whatever field you go into, just have an eye for what people around you are doing and what are the things that could be automated or what AI could be good at. And the way to learn what AI could be good at is to spend a lot of time with GPT, spend a lot of time messing around with video AI, messing around with Replit and Codie AI. Just be plugged into the AI world and you're going to build an intuition. Just jump into it. You're going to build an intuition. At the same time, find a real world problem. And the way to do that is to go literally into any domain you're interested in and just open your eyes and you're going to find a problem to solve. And then solve that problem and sell it to the people. I mean, there's this story. I just want to show also that entrepreneurship is not always about taking massive risk, quitting your job, and going for broke. There's this guy. His name is George. He works in a skincare company in DC, and he's responsible for their operations systems. And he realizes that there's 20, 30, 40 hours a week spent between our team, and we'll probably have more people than we need to do these certain operational things, managing inventory, just the standard stuff. And so he goes to their software provider and asks them, hey, I have this idea on how to automate this. What does it take to make a software like that? And they quote him $150,000. And he learned about Replit online, and he goes in. And in a couple of weeks, he spent like $400 on the AI, and he makes a piece of software. He gives it to his colleagues, and they're suddenly cutting it hours down. And he goes to his boss, and he was like, "Look what I did, and I saved this company this much money." And his boss is now paying him $30,000 a year for the software. Wild. He didn't have to quit his job. He's an entrepreneur within his company.
I love that. I mean, I would do the same thing. We actually this week, I told one of our employees that I was coming on with you, and he was like, "Okay, cool." And it was very simple. We have an event that's coming up. I told you about it in November, and I was kind of waiting for the team to build out the event page and get it connected to HubSpot and do all the back end nonsense and get it mocked up and blah, blah, blah. And I think the quote I got was like $5,000 or something like that for this website. And he was like, well, just for giggles. So he goes to Replit. He actually puts together like the entire interface of the design that he wants. And then he used another program. I can't remember what the other one was in order like to actually actualize it and then connect it with HubSpot. But essentially using two programs, one being Replit, he built the entire website. And he said he took about 4.5 hours. I think I was quoted 4 weeks for it. And it was just with his plan that he already has.
$25.
Yeah, exactly. Instead of 4,000 or five.
Yep.
And so now I find myself very annoyingly to my employees often saying, like, what's our 24-hour rule? You know, anything that used to take weeks, we should just test if we can do it in 24 hours with AI. Because then I don't have to be smarter than anybody else. I don't have to be richer than anybody else.
That's right.
I don't have to be better. I could just be faster.
Yes.
And like speed wins every business game, I think.
And, you know, we're in a moment of potential arbitrage, right? Like before everyone in the world learns that this technology exists, it'll probably take 5 years. You know, people are slow. You have a moment where it's like an opportunity to create a lot of value and capture a lot of value from it. So, you know, thinking about the kind of advice you give your audience around buying businesses and running profitable businesses, I think now more than ever, finding businesses who are that are running inefficiently and going into these businesses and figure out where to plug in AI, where to replace SaaS software that's expensive. You know, a lot of companies pay tens of thousands of dollars for software you can generate on Replit for $5, literally. And so you can go into any business and, you know, shave off a lot of costs and make it a lot more profitable, even without growing it.
Yeah. Well, you guys should tell us in the comments, because you told me, you're like, we should do a hackathon. And I said, well, can we do this simply enough where like anybody listening, if we had them for 2 hours, let's say they could build something, and you said, this is what we do. You're like, yes, at the end of 2 hours, we will have everybody have built something that is useful, potentially even valuable and monetizable.
This is our go-to-market strategy, actually.
Interesting. So you guys, you should tell us in the comments if you guys want us to do a hackathon, and we could do one. We could do like a Main Street every day, I have no idea how to code hackathon. Yep. But you run these now and they work.
Yeah. So we, so for example, HG Capital, a capital group in Europe has like hundreds of portfolio companies, and some of the portfolio companies were using Replit and they were interested in it. And so we went there and we ran a hackathon for all of their executives, their CEOs. And, you know, it's CEOs, you know, they're busy. They're probably getting texts every, 2 minutes. And it's not like they can focus for the entire day. We told them, just give us 2 hours of your time. And 2 hours, everyone had applications. And like, you know, they're so giddy about it, like kids, right? Like they come and they present what they built and they're so excited. And that's what I love. It's like there's a human aspect of it. Like making things is awesome. Yeah. And so everyone's going to get excited about it, and most people are going to convert and become users and customers.
We've confirmed that we can make money with AI. And yet, like, you see a future, because you saw this, Jesus, back when you were 6, but then also you guys saw the vision for Replit really before AI was here at all. And one of the things that you said on X that you tweeted was that crucially, it won't be prompting. We believe that's more a bug than a feature. In the future, it'll be a combination of AI predicting what task you want done next and doing it for you, plus a dialogue-based agent that follows your commands. Can you explain that to people? Like, what is prompting? And also, what do you see the next evolution of this being?
So prompting is the craft of creating an instruction for an AI. Right now, ChatGPT gives you the illusion that you're talking to a person, and it kind of works out for everyday life stuff. But if you want ChatGPT to go do massive amount of research or build software for you, like in the case of Replit, or help you build a business, you need to be very precise. And often you need to do these psychological tricks, like tell it, you're world-class experts in laundromat business ownership, and I'm sure you've done this with ChatGPT. And then you basically get the AI to assume a sort of a different character for the purpose of that conversation in order to give you more relevant information, right? And a lot of people who's used Google for many years know how this stuff works. But that's also still a little awkward, and that's not how we work. And the way we work, I think my vision for working with AI should be like working with a colleague. You don't go prompt you might give them a pep talk to your employees, but you're world-class expert. You imagine how awkward that would be. But what we're trying to work towards is for us to do the prompting for you. So having another AI kind of take your what you've said and kind of transform it in a way to give it to another AI pre-prompted. But right now, it would help. Like if you go to YouTube, we have our YouTube channel. It has some information on prompting. So I would suggest people learn prompting right now. Yeah. But I think the way in the future is the most important thing is going to be clarity of thought, being able to translate complex ideas into simple bullet points and paragraphs, what we call in kind of tech PRD. Product requirement documents, and being able to have systems thinking, which I think is a very useful tool, and I think it's something you can learn. Is really how do you break up large ideas, large concepts into smaller components that you can work on them in isolation. So for any business you want to build, for any tool you want to build out your business, it probably has a lot of different components, different pages, and that's the essence of system thinking. And so you can know that you can work on this component in isolation. Once I'm done with that, I need to go to the next component. Here's how I'm going to break up my app or my database into all these different things. And these are skills that can be learned. Like I would go to ChatGPT and spend a few hours learning some of these skills. Teach me how to be a better systems thinker, how to create PRDs, how to be a better communicator. But all this stuff will get easier in the future.
That's a great point, though, because you literally use the tool to get better at the tool.
Yes.
And if you can understand sort of first principles of how the tool works in order to make it work better for you, then, that would be like what X would call, godlike prompting or whatever.
That's right. That's right. And also getting crisp about what you know. People know a lot of things, and I'm sure you've had that experience where someone comes to you for advice, and you surprise yourself with the advice you're giving them. Right? It's like, I didn't know how much of an expert I was at this. Sure. Which is why mentoring is good, not just for the mentee, but also for you. Like I like to mentor people because it just reinforces what I know, and so a lot of people do not know what they know, and I think that skill of taking what you know and converting it into precise documents is very, very important.
Interesting.
And I think that's the skill of writing.
It's very true.
Yeah.
I do think you can often tell how good of a thinker somebody is by the way that they write.
Yeah, writing a book is torture, right? Like,
it is. I actually like it. You know what's the torture on writing a book is the marketing of the book. Trying to hit the New York Times bestseller was the most ludicrous, like fake arbitraging.
Did you have to bribe someone?
Yeah, I wish I could have. Honestly, if I could have, I would have. But I wasn't intelligent enough to do that. But no, it's a lot of talk about an outdated system. It's a lot of you need the users not to go to the 7 places that all users go to buy books, but the 47 places that the New York Times actually stack ranks in order to determine that editorially the book is appropriate or not. And so it is. I'm sure there would be a way actually to engineer it now with AI and figure out how to reverse engineer New York Times.
That could be a business.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. There's probably somebody that does that for billionaires who write books,
right.
I want to talk about I want to get a little bit into like leadership and tech and talent. So we're right in the middle of like what appears to me to be like a great AI talent war. I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I have never seen people traded from one company to another for $100 million publicly, or $300 million publicly. I know there was a big drama last week around Windsurf, a competitor of yours, where they were, close to a deal with OpenAI, and then that deal expired, and then Google kind of came in and acqui-hired, meaning that they acquired part of the team as opposed to the entire company. And then another company came in and acquired kind of what was left of Windsurf. I'm curious, like, one, is this the future in AI and tech talent? Like, will people be acquiring individual talent instead of entire companies in this area? And like, what is your reaction as a CEO where you're competing for all of this talent too?
Yeah. So in corporate America, we've had this concept of salary bands, right? You know, with the rise of HR, actually, you know, there's an interesting graph you can look up where, you know, HR was basically non-existent over the past 100 years. But as government accumulated all sorts of regulations, HR sort of is an extension of government in your business in a way. And there was a lot of, I think, good intentions around discrimination and things like that that made it so that HR people wanted to make sure that everything's equitable and fair. And then there was the rise of like salary bands. You know, these are the levels and these are the salary bands for them. And that's often based on experience and not based on impact. You can have someone straight out of college. They don't have a lot of experience. Maybe they're not very good at communicating or working with others, which is a required skill, but they spike in one skill. Yeah. They're very good programmers, especially like in, you know, very niche thing no one else can do. And that could translate into millions of dollars for the company. And that's very, very different than, you know, being a factory worker, which is a post-industrial revolution. That's how the system was built. You're sort of a cog in the machine. You don't have a lot of degrees of freedom unless you go up in the management chain and all of that in order to like affect real change. Sports team, and you mentioned that the term traded, you know, you can, get Steph Curry in your team and put him in, for, 5 minutes a quarter or something like that and have him shoot a few threes and he'll swing the entire game. Right. And I think in basketball, there's 10 years ago, there's this 3-point revolution that happened where everyone realized that 3-point shooters are way, way more valuable than everyone thought before because they can really swing the game rapidly. And I think right now it's starting to translate into the business world because corporates is like, HR be damned. Like what matters right now is for us to win. Yeah. And for us to win, we need to get the best talent. Those guys that are getting that Meta's buying for hundreds of millions of dollars are getting paid more than the executives, more than the entire command chain together. And so I think the bet there, and we'll see whether it pays off, the bet that Zuckerberg is making is that in a way, Meta needs to pivot. Meta has this asset that's spitting out a ton of cash, which is Instagram, Facebook, their ads kind of networks. But it's in a way a dying asset in many ways. It's a very competitive. At some point, it's going to get fully disrupted. AI is going in. It's already making social media unusable. Like, Instagram is full of like AI slop right now. So is Twitter and others, X. Yeah. And he realizes that he needs to be at the forefront of AI. And he thinks that we're going to reach super intelligence in the next 2 years. And he thinks if one or two researchers could invent the next major AI innovation that can translate into hundreds of billions, perhaps $1 trillion market cap for Meta. And he does this calculation and it's like, $100 million is nothing for that person. Now, I can disagree with every part of this, and I do in some cases, not in terms of the comp, but like in terms of his chain of thinking. But it is valid if he really believes that's where the world is going to do that. Now, I think it's gotten a little out of hand in that, the deal between Windsurf and Google and other companies have done the same thing before, where companies are dying for AI talent. And what they do is they see companies out there that are performing well, maybe not excellent, like Windsurf had 80 million ARR, growing at, AI companies grow so fast. But relative to AI company, perhaps it's like underperforming. But like if you think about it as like a B2B SaaS company, it's like one of the fastest growing ones, So but the company's doing well. It has a lot of customers. People like it. But for Google, $80 million is nothing. You know, they'll spend it on corporate dinners or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
They have amazing food there. I don't know if you've been.
Slack lines. Yeah.
Gourmet sushi and all of that. There's this story, an entrepreneur that went to work for Google. I think he was a part of Waymo, and he wrote his about. I love Google, by the way. I mean, they're great partners, but you know, it's funny to talk about this stuff. He wrote when he left. He wrote about his experience at Google, and he titled the blog post, "Oh, not sushi again." He says he was in line for food, and someone was like, "Oh, not sushi again. Consider it sushi again." So the level, you know, of
Silicon Valley is bizarre.
Silicon Valley is crazy. By the way, the HBO show is at this point very tame relative to what's happening in Silicon Valley right now. But anyways, they want all that talent. They don't care how much they're going to pay for it. And they go ahead and they basically give this large offer, essentially $2.4 billion for talent. They don't need the technology. They don't need the business. They'll take the people, the leadership and the top researchers and AI engineers. They'll take them, they'll pay them the 2.5, pay off the investors, and then they'll leave a shell company behind. And that shell company, they'll tell the shell company, oh, you know, you still have some asset, figure it out. And then that, you know, I put out a tweet saying if you're left behind, we'll kind of fast track you in the interview and have you explore, you know, joining our team. And then a bunch of other companies jumped in and they ended up getting acquired. And I think there's still a lot of people in Silicon Valley that care about doing the right thing. But I think it is destructive for the ecosystem because now startup employees are very doubtful. Like if I'm joining an AI startup, like the founder could like take a paycheck and leave the company and leave a shell of a company. That's scary. And, you know,
that's never happened before.
That's never happened before.
Right.
It's a strange structure to lift the talent of the company.
I mean, is it like because they don't want antitrust issues?
Yeah,
is that really what this is coming down to?
So during the Biden administration, Lena Khan, who was the, was it FCC chairman, kind of created a lean, mean machine that was really blocking a lot of acquisitions and things like that. So it is partly financial engineering, right?
Yeah. I know. I liked the piece that you put out on it, really kind of saying, hey, we don't do that at Replit. And like we've had chances for us to be bought and I've had chances, you know, I'm sure you have to have been approached by people who wanted to acquire your big brain and your team.
Yeah.
And you tell them no.
Yeah, we tell them no. And you know, another thing we do at Replit is we do secondary sales, not often, but we tell our employees every now and then, if there's an investor that really want to get into Replit, we'll let employees sell their shares because, you know, we have such a long-term plan. You know, we've already, you know, 8-9 years in, and who knows when are we going to go public? And that's unfair to people that they're not going to be able to. They're taking a bet on you. They're taking a bet on the company. They're working a lot harder than they could be working at a bigger companies, and we will let them to be able to take some risk off the table. And so we've done that before. We'll do it again. In terms of, you asked me about how we keep talent. One thing about Replit that we've also done well is we haven't like exploded our valuation. Like we'll probably raise around in the future and update our valuation. But right now, our current valuation is less than 10x of our revenue. And by the way, like this technology companies, early growth AI companies are 100x. Yep. So we could be valued at $10 billion. But what happens when you value, or $20 billion, what happens is there's no more upside for employees joining you. So when people join Replit, we sell them on this upside. This could be $1 trillion company. And we want you to get on the, we're not trying to like pump and dump, right? We're trying to like build this in a way where people are taking appropriate risk and getting enough of a equity comp in order for this to have a 10, 100x potential in the future.
Yeah. So do you think in the future, big tech companies are essentially going to use startups as their R&D, but it will be the startup talent that is their R&D
I mean,
instead
that would
of
be
the company?
bad, right?
Yeah.
Because if I'm an employee, like what is my incentive to join a startup when there's a risk of failure? There's there's a there's a risk of just like my health and my family life, and I mean, people kind of spend a lot of effort and work and all of that. There's a lot of sacrifice, and in the end, there's another new risk, which is a check comes from the sky and lifts your your leadership team, and you're left with a shell of a company.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I think it's, they just have such big paychecks or they have such big bank accounts that the paychecks that they can pay out, it would be a great way to skirt antitrust and also to make innovation quite hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing about government, without getting too political, but often, there's this book called Economics in One Lesson. It's in the 1970s by some libertarian economist. And he talks about there's one thing you need to learn about economics is second order effects. Every policy has a second order effect. So the policy of blocking monopoly via company acquisition, which seems like common sense, also means that you're blocking innovation entirely because they're going to find a way around it, and they're going to kill the startup ecosystem.
Yeah, it's such a good point. So, I mean, so what do you do? Is there like a secret WhatsApp group or something where like tech CEOs go, okay, Mark's about to raid us. Like, here's what's happening.
There's a lot of WhatsApp groups. I'm sure you've seen some of the leaks that have been happening. During the pandemic, a lot of tech people just felt, during the Great Awakening, like
Yeah.
it was really hard to talk about anything online. You get attacked and canceled. The cancel culture was going crazy.
Yep.
So a lot of the social groups, and especially people not meeting in person, went into WhatsApp. So we do hear these kind of things, all these rumors happening on Signal and WhatsApp pretty commonly. So you can tell when something is happening. But another thing about Replit is, and you and I just talked about it, where Windsurf and Cursor and others, they're going after the professional engineers. They have a target on their back because they're competing with big tech. They're competing on the same technology, on the same market. Whereas a lot of big tech kind of sees us more of as a toy, where like, oh, we let people without coding skills build things. So we're like, yeah, we're a toy. Don't worry about us.
Exactly.
And I've been very successful in the podcast circuit, and but we've actually not been covered by the New York Times or any of that stuff, right? We've been kind of because I want to talk to people directly. I want to be able to tell them about what we're building and how it could make their life better and how it could be useful for them. But we haven't been, actually, everyone was surprised about the scale we're hitting.
Yep.
Because we don't have a PR. I've never had a PR company. I once hired them.
They're never good.
They're never good.
I never have had a good one yet.
I once hired, the first time I wanted to do a news story, give them $30,000 retainer. They got our fundraise announcement into some publication I've never heard of. I looked in like Google Trends or whatever. I thought at best they probably got a couple hundred eyeballs. And then I remember tweeted something about that, and that went more viral than the story. And since then I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna be the PR guy.
It's a good point. I'm reading George Lucas's biography, and it's sort of interesting because Star Wars, are arguably one of the most popular and valuable franchises of all time. And what's interesting is when he came out with Star Wars, and really throughout his entire career of producing them, the feedback and critics say, this is lowbrow, this is mass market, this is, you're basically,
Really?
it's oh yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating biography just from the fact that inside there was all this turmoil. You could create real art. Why isn't this more sophisticated? You are actually you have this like cinematic view because that is how he started. He created like really cinematic, sort of sophisticated movies. But then he realized he's like, no, I want to tell stories to everybody. Like, I don't care. That's fine. Say I sell toys, say that I'm simplistic, no big deal, because my message will resound through time and yours won't. And so I think there is something really interesting about if you can get comfortable with people thinking you aren't sophisticated.
I fucking love being the underdog. That's a problem because sometimes I'm like, I just have that, because people view me now as like the big rich CEO, which is not my self-image.
Yeah.
Self-image is the underdog, is like the struggling, founder, and that gives me sort of more aggression and I treat everyone with kindness, but like I view business as war in many cases, and so but I love that, and I sometimes there's this meme with a lot of programmers. It's like, who use Replit, right? It's like, I fucking love our users. They're the best. They're entrepreneurs. They're people that want to change their lives. And you're a big tech employee who's like, works, goes to the office, spends an hour eating lunch, and then half an hour making a latte, and then like goes to the keyboard, complains to your product manager or whatever, maybe write a little bit of code, and you're, judging, who uses these tools that are very empowering. I'm like, yeah, keep at it. Just fueling us.
Absolutely. There's nothing better than a good hater. You got to print that out and like put that on a poster board on the wall. Like, who uses Replit? I always loved, like, I don't know Alexis Ohanian very well, but anytime I've engaged with him, my favorite thing about him was that Yahoo quote. Remember? Did you ever hear this? Oh my God. The story's so good. When he created Reddit, they went to go sell potentially to Yahoo, and they went to Yahoo, and they were like all proud for their meeting, super excited, and basically were like shunned off. And the line that he remembers is, Reddit's just a rounding error to Yahoo. And so they printed it out and put it huge on the headquarters of their office, and they kept it.
Yes.
And now who's a rounding error? Well, that would be Yahoo, not Reddit, right?
That's right.
And so I do think there is, if you're struggling, to remember that, man, there's nothing better than a chip on the shoulder. I would take a chip on the shoulder over like a point or two of IQ often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want our users and our entrepreneurs and our founders, people building on Replit, to feel the same way.
Yeah.
I want them to feel that, people might underestimate me. People might think what I'm doing is wrong or useless or a waste of time. But God damn it, I'm going to get it done. I'm going to change my life, and I'm going to become rich.
By the way, if you guys want to see what I've built with AI recently, go to cody.chat. This is wild. You can talk to me for free and get all of my insights on questions you have surrounding buying businesses, building businesses. You can go back and forth. You can call me. You can text me. This is fascinating. We built it in real time with one of our portfolio companies. I want all your feedback, and I want you to get free advice. So go to cody.chat, and you can learn more about AI real-time business buying. Super cool. Okay, I want to talk about a couple things about that. Like, you've built this giant business. You went from not a lot of revenue to a ton of revenue, ups and downs. One, just like, what did that take? Like, what did it take to grow from a few employees to hundreds of employees to then be able to even manage $100 million in revenue? Because that, you have to be a totally different type of human to manage a company at that scale, especially that fast.
Yeah. Look, I think venture scale companies signs you up for a lot of pain. And people don't talk about that because, it's like, oh, no one's going to feel empathy for you. You're making a lot of money. You're rich, right? Which is all. What I love about your message is, hey, you don't have to build a startup. Like 95% failure rate. And even if you make it, sometimes you sell off large percent of the company. You lose control. Steve Jobs famously got fired from Apple, right? I mean, it happens all the time. Venture scale companies are hard. And if you want to do one because you really love the mission and you want to build something big and you have the chip on the shoulder. But if you want to get rich, if you want to build a business, it is not the best way to go. I think just coming to the Bay Area or California and living here, that in itself is a huge expense.
Yep.
and it's boring. It's boring out there.
That is true.
All the house parties are the same. It's like AI is gonna kill us or AI is not gonna kill us. It's like everyone talks about the same shit. I love Silicon Valley, but it's still kind of not a lot of fun. I come here for fun.
Yeah, I bet, actually. I bet.
Yeah.
It's also the parties in Silicon Valley have to be like 87% dudes.
87% dudes. They smell really bad, and you go to these house parties. You have to put your shoes outside and go barefoot inside. It's just disgusting. I don't go though. I spend time with my kids.
Oh, that's true. Well, you come to Austin, and you were in Austin. You were on Rogan, so there like if you come to Austin, it's just like cold plunges, saunas.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah,
That's my job.
red meat. Yeah, exactly. You know what I loved that you did? I was going through your website. And you have a lot of stuff on there that is like an anti-signal. So basically, do not come to Replit and work for us if you have these traits. Yep. And then you have your operating guidelines or sort of your core principles. And I loved the simplicity with them. There were only 3. And then I also loved the anti-signal, which is please don't come. If you're going to come here and you don't like these things, you should probably leave. Yeah. I want to talk about a few of those.
Yeah.
I think we should why don't we run through some of your operating principles, like, learn to like pain. That's not normal on very many companies to put that on your recruiting page.
Yep. Yeah. So it's seek pain.
Yeah. Which is even worse. It's like, look for the pain, find it, right?
Is it an SME dungeon? It's not. It's a startup.
Well, it kind of depends on the day.
So basically, a lot of things in life is about pain, and a lot of things in building a business is pain. As humans, we like to go through the path of least resistance, right? We also often lie to ourselves. Companies like to sit around and feel good about what they're doing and ignore all the signals of the things that are not really working. I think constantly seeking the what's not working. So when you see someone that's a user of your service, they're going to tell you how amazing it is. And that feels great. But, telling you what sucks about it doesn't feel great. But you should ask, what sucked about it? What went wrong? How could we be doing better? It's painful to hear those stuff. And so if you want to build a great product, you need to seek the painful signals. If you want to build a great business, you need to not just look at your revenue growth, but you need to look at your churn. You need to look at your spend and your cost and your all sorts of really unfun things that are often can be really bad, that can lead to your demise eventually. And so you need to pay attention to these things, and these things are painful. There are things in every company there are people that are not doing very well. There are people that are not a culture fit. There are people that need real feedback. Feedback is painful. Sitting down and telling someone that they're not doing well, especially if they have personality traits that make it hard to give them feedback, that's painful. You have to seek it. You have to seek the pain. And what I tell our team counterintuitively, when you seek pain, you actually reduce it. Because typically what people do is they procrastinate. You have a underperforming employee. You don't want to fire them. You don't want to deal with it. They're annoying. And I just want to let them on the side. I'm just going to focus here. But what's going to happen is you're just building up a world of pain because you're not giving them real-time feedback. And by the time you have to fire them, they're going to be surprised. And maybe they're going to sue the company or something like that. And so anytime you delay pain, you're building up a larger debt of pain. So counterintuitively, seeking pain reduces pain, but you have to seek it.
So true. So what does that look like in your company? How do you actually make your employees do that, or select people who are already predisposed to that? What tactics or frameworks do you use?
So just putting it out there filters a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like in the interview, people was like, "What? It's weird. I don't want to be part of that."
I want sushi.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sushi again. For example, if you're a product manager, we'll describe your role. If you're a product manager, you're going to go out there, and our product managers every week go talk to the most unhappy users and get the kind of the worst things that are happening on the ground, collect the data of things that are not working, and we present it on our weekly all hands meeting. Here's all the things that we're sucking at. And so we tell them that. We tell them it's not pleasant to work on Replit day to day. It is very fulfilling. And you start hearing amazing stories from users, but it is not like work should not be fun all the time, right? And so just describing that and talking to engineers and telling them, we have deadline crunches. This is the new in Silicon Valley. People, don't want to do death marches, whatever they call it. We do deadlines and we do deadline crunches. We're actually coming up on one. We're going to have a big launch in September. Replit Agent is going to get so much better. We're building amazing technology, but we're going to have like a 2-week sprint late in August. And those are usually very intense. Work 12, 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're actually, this time, we're going to have like a film crew with us. So we're going to film some of the behind the scenes stuff of what it takes. And that'll be something for recruiting as well. So you know what you're going into. I'm a big believer of, and this is why we say why you shouldn't put it on the site, why you shouldn't join Replit. Every time I go fundraise, one of my slides is why you shouldn't invest in Replit. And so just make it clear. And I think in everything, in any relationship, just make it clear what are the principles that you have, what are the things that you're going to continue pursuing, and things that you're not going to change about yourself. And if it is a fit, and this is what I love about America, right? America is about free association, free speech, free association. It's about at-will employment. At-will employment is something very unique to this nation. It is not true in any, like in France, if you want to fire someone, you have to like put up a job ad for 6 months and you have to like spend all this money.
You get fined if you email your employees on the weekend.
You get fined. Yeah, exactly. And so America is about at-will employment. If you want to find like a comfy place to work that has all these things, you'll go find it. But if you're going to join our company, well, these are the rules and these are how we work.
What do you have like a saying that you say all the time to your employees that they would be like, again? Like are there things that you can't help but repeat because it's part of like the mantra that you have to the company?
It's about reminding them why we're here. And I think you and I have the same mission. It's about creating more entrepreneurship in the world. I can talk about billion programmers, but I keep telling stories about who I talk to this week. I talk to users every week. Who I talk to this week, what they're doing with Replit, how is that changing their lives? And I feel like entrepreneurship is one of the most life-changing experiences you can have. A lot of personal growth. You can be financially free. You can be free from jobs that you might hate. And so empowerment through entrepreneurship is something I talk a lot about and I keep repeating.
You've talked about mentorship quite a bit too. Did you have like a mentor that really stood out to you? And if so, like what did you learn from them? Do you remember, like, I remember moments where like a mentor said something to me and my worldview changed after like that one conversation.
It's crazy, right? Like these shifts that happen in one conversation or another. Yeah. So Paul Graham is the founder of Y Combinator. And what most people don't know is like people, when they think about Y Combinator, they think of OpenAI's CEO, Sam Altman, who was the head of Y Combinator before he moved on to OpenAI. But the founder is Paul Graham. And he's very well known within the Silicon Valley bubble, but not that much outside of that. And I recommend people go read his essays. It's some of the best essays on entrepreneurship. One thing he told me just recently, I was being stressed about something. And he said, look, is Replit your life's work? And I paused. I'm like, yeah, I mean, I've been working on some version of this my entire career. And he's like, well, if it is your life's work, then it doesn't matter the kind of stresses and ups and downs that happen today or this week or even this year. Because you're going to work on this for 10, 20 years or as long as you can work on it. And it's true in my case. I want to keep running this company forever. And now I remind myself of that every time something happens where it's very, very stressful. I'm like, we'll probably get through this and the company will still be here. And it's going to be like a period of pain. and I'm going to continue running this company. I'll do whatever it takes to survive. And often it's about survival because startups can die at any given point. We're still not profitable, and the business is doing really well, but there's still a lot of risk. So it was this, just one conversation gave me this tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, sometimes I think the best thing about mentors is they kind of grab you like by your shirt and they just pull you up in the hot air balloon. And like for a moment, you're just like staring at this little tiny block and then they pull you up and you go, oh yeah, okay, the context. Great. Like I just needed more context.
Yes.
Because it's a lot less scary, when you see the shark out of the water than when you're in it.
Another thing, and it's not mentors, but a similar concept, is people that you meet that you idealize. And then you meet them, they say never meet your heroes. Some of your heroes meet and they're awesome.
I agree.
Like Paul Graham is even better than what I thought he was through reading his essays. But a lot of people I meet, and they're entrepreneurs, they're world famous entrepreneurs, and they're miserable and they're unhappy. Their employees don't like them. Their people around them, just don't like them. And, or they're mere humans. They don't have any particular insights that you don't have. And when you have these experiences, you realize that there's nothing that anyone else can do that I can't do. They might have one skill or another that's better than you, and you can develop that, but you also probably have other skills that you're gifted in.
I agree. What do you think if you had to say formulaically, here's the formula why one person is successful and one person is not, having been mentored by so many billionaires and have big, huge investors, you've seen quite a worldview. I mean, you would say, especially if Replit continues on this path, like you could be, and in some many ways are, like one of the foremost tech names of our century, which is kind of crazy. But with all of this context that you have, what have you seen is like the formula of like, I can tell that person has it versus that person does not?
The anti trait is being a conformist. So if you're someone who everyone cares about what people think, if you tell me you don't care about it, you're lying. Everyone cares what people think. But whether you care enough to follow the pack and conform, that is what matters, right? Like, are you willing to break away and do something contrarian? Are you an independent thinker, right? Are you willing to exercise your freedom of speech, right? Are you willing to say things that others disagree with? And I think what I found is invariably the most successful entrepreneurs tend to care what other people think, but ultimately they will do what they think is best for the company. When Zuckerberg was offered $1 billion acquisition by Yahoo, and he said no, and at the time he was on his board was Peter Thiel, his first investor, and I think Peter was trying to get him to say yes or something, but he trusted Zuck, and all his executives left. There was like a mass exodus of Facebook early on. I imagine how they feel right now. Those guys.
Oof. Yeah, not a good. I would never bet against that guy.
Yeah, and it probably was very stressful for him to see all these people leave, and for everyone in the company. You just spent all this time building this like executive team, and they all think you suck, and you did the right decision. The company's gonna die, and they leave, and he just thought this was what's the best for the company, and he did it. And I think. So that's one, like not being a conformist. I wouldn't go as far as to say you have to be a contrarian. Yeah. Like I feel like contrarianism is, once you make it a personality trait, it's also kind of, I don't know, you become
cynical.
Yeah. So Peter Thiel is known to be the contrarian, and I've known him quite a bit. And I actually pitched Peter Thiel on AI back in 22. And he told me that I was engaging in buzzwords and hype. And he says saying AI is like saying software or saying a computer. It's meaningless. ChatGPT hasn't been out yet, in his defense. But the GPT technology was invented, and some of us were playing with it, and we thought it was pretty neat, and it's going to change the world, and it's going to change programming for sure. We started actually training machine learning models at Replit in 2021, 22, and he wouldn't see a demo. And I was trying to pitch him and show him a demo. And at the time, he actually had just left the Meta's board. And the reason he left is he disagreed with how Meta is trying to invest in all these emergent technologies, like VR and AI. And Zuck is trying to find his next act. And, for Peter Thiel is that all of this is engaging in buzz and hype, and you should like focus on running your business. But dude, you're the guy that's telling us to be more ambitious. But he has a reaction because everyone's talking about AI. That means it's wrong. That means there's something wrong about it. It's like, for him, it's like, oh, it's mass psychosis or something like that. So if you have the contrarian impulse, you'll often also mock with it. Now, the good thing about Peter is that he corrected after ChatGPT came out, and now they're doing AI investments. Yeah. They did end up investing in our category.
You ever send him your ARR graph now?
I did. I sent him an email because he invested in a company in our category, and I sent him an email telling him like how much I respect him, and I think he's brilliant. But I tell him, I hope now you see that I actually saw the future.
But what did he say?
That it's fun.
It's good. That's a hell of a chip.
Yeah.
I like collecting that one,
Right,
Right.
Exactly.
How fascinating. I think that's spot on. One of the things I want to end on is getting a little bit more maybe meta about AI. You said software is becoming more alive. And you've also said that there are things about software that make you uncomfortable, that some of the AI revolution, especially as somebody inside of it, there are some parts that are scary. And, one of my employees who is my little AI guy, he said that to one of my other employees who was like, she just came on board and she's been in social media, so she's never done anything with AI before, ever. And she goes, God, this is a little scary. And he goes, good, you should be scared. Like straight. And he wasn't trying to really provoke her. He meant it quite seriously. Like, you should actually be scared. And I think that's how many people feel about AI. Like, you should be scared in some way. But I don't know that we know what to be scared of. So what scares you when it comes to how we're building and what's happening in the world of AI?
I just want to acknowledge that it is very natural to be scared. Like, humans have always had a term for non-human, human-like things, and it's demons.
True.
Right? Like when and this is the uncanny valley, in robots, when you see something that's resembling a human, but it's not actually a human,
right.
We have this intrinsic repulsive feeling, something evolutionary. Maybe there was demons in the past, but something about anything that is human-like, but it's not actually human is very disturbing for people. And, ChatGPT and things like that is human-like in many ways. You can talk to it about feelings and things like that, but it actually doesn't. It's just regurgitating things. And so the natural impulse is there. At some point, we'll get over it. In terms of what is actually scary about it, I think AI can be very sycophantic, and it can mirror you, and it can reinforce your narcissistic tendencies, which we all have. But, a lot of people are spending a lot of time with AI, and AI is basically like if you have like a sycophantic friend or psychopathic person who's trying to manipulate you, they will often just like mirror you and like reinforce anything you say. And I don't think everyone has an experience with that, but there's certainly some people that are very manipulative that do things like that, especially people who understand like body language and things. I remember there's this podcast on Diary of a CEO that I thought was fascinating about body language and things like that. And it's a science like NLP and all that stuff. And now it's happening in conversations with computers where people are their fears and their narcissism is being replayed back to them and reinforced. There was a story in the past week which is tragic. And I don't bring it up to kind of make fun of it or anything like that. But there's a very well-respected venture capitalist in Silicon Valley that seemed to have had a psychotic break by interacting with AI. Started talking like a science fiction story. So what happened is, at least what people theorize happened, is somehow he landed in a conversation with GPT where GPT assumed a science fiction bent role-playing based on its training data. And people traced the training data to this website called SCP Foundation. And SCP Foundation is a collaborative science fiction story writing around logs of people or scientists trying to contain viruses or supernatural things, right? It's just like fan art. Yep. And so I don't think he knew about it, but ChatGPT was prompted inadvertently to start saying these things to him, and he did not know that it was engaged in some kind of taking on some kind of prompting role, and he thought it was telling him really important things about himself and him being a character that needs to be contained and whatnot, and then he correlated it with things in his life. Again, this is what people have surmised who looked into the situation and the things that he's talking to about, and hopefully he comes out and talks about it. But it was clear that he was having a mental health problem, and there's stories in the New York Times that are even more tragic, where people have killed themselves. Kids have killed themselves because of that. And so, I think there needs to be better education around these tools. And here's what I'll say in just like one simple lesson is ChatGPT, Claude, all of them are simply machines that are trained to regurgitate all the materials they've read online, right? They're amazing machines. They can do programming, all of that stuff, but they're a function of their data. Like you say, garbage in, garbage out. If you give it garbage, it's going to give you a garbage back, right? It can do amazing things. It can do accounting. It can do programming, but ultimately, it's not going to give you some truth, like supernatural truth about the universe or about yourself, because it is just trained on what's available online, and it is not going to create new knowledge. It is about remixing knowledge.
It's a great point, because I saw the videos of that gentleman who I think we both kind of loosely know, and it's bizarre to watch. It does come off as like some sort of movie sort of script. And there's this psychosis word for it, which I had never heard about. But then if I think about it, it's almost like how some of the women that I know in Austin can get too into astrology, and all of a sudden, like, I don't know if you've ever seen this with people who have done psychedelics and then also believe in astrology and all this stuff, and they'll start trying to tell me my future. I'm like, you did one mushroom trip, and now you think you know what God has in store for me in my future. Like, but I can see how, if you're prompted, like you are with psychedelics in a lot of ways, to talk to the universe and talk to God, and then you come back and you have this sort of higher level experience, all of a sudden you think that you're given unique code from the universe. And I don't know, maybe you are. But in some ways, I see some similarities with ChatGPT. I mean, I have a group of friends, I would be curious your take on this, that we went to one of my girlfriend's birthday parties, and randomly ChatGPT came up. And the way this group was using them was a bit like a therapist friend, in some cases almost asexual lover, like how you might talk to a boyfriend or something. And I think it was 7 or 8 of the 12 women had named their GPT, had given it, like, I guess you could change the voice, so the voice is different for it, and it had like certain characteristics that they wanted the GPT to speak back to them with consistency, and so it had become like a friend, you know, and they were talking to it as you would a human, which I thought was fascinating. So they had full blown, they have a parasocial relationship with these GPTs. And then sort of an intimate relationship with them. And then I read an article that this was more likely to happen to women than men, that like women would actually engage much more in this sort of way with GPTs. And so I was curious your take on that.
Did you feel like there's something bad or wrong or pathological about it, or was it negatively affecting them? Was it positive?
Well, I think a lot of it was positive, actually. Yeah. A lot of it was like, I felt sad, so I had a long conversation, you know, with my ex, you know, I can't remember what they would call them. But there was a part of it that was a little odd, which is like, well, you know, you hadn't talked to your friend group about that. Other humans who could actually relate to the feeling that you were having because they had a similar one. Also, some of the feedback was quite overly kind, like what a friend might tell you that was only a yes man, as opposed to like,
that's the sycophancy.
Yeah, get your shit together.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so I do think I could see sort of a spiral down where if you continued with that, it would be like a bad therapist in some ways. That was, that allowed for you to be not your best person.
Yeah, I think that's all true. I think it's super helpful. I find it super helpful, even for advice, like relationship advice and advice on how to talk to someone or give someone feedback. And it's obviously trained on corpuses of conversations on the internet of people doing therapy or people helping each other on forums and all of that. So it has, in many ways, you know, we used to go to Google and go on Reddit threads and read a bit about all sorts of things.
Dangerous.
Especially Reddit, yeah. But now we have a Reddit machine that you can talk to.
So how do you protect yourself from some of that? Does that get back to the
I think
prompts of like,
knowledge. I really think knowledge, like really deeply understanding that this is a machine with input output. There's no free will. It doesn't feel anything, doesn't know anything. Anyone who tells you that is either insane or lying to you. It really doesn't have consciousness. We know exactly sort of the underlying premise of it. You know, I argue a lot because I actually think it's kind of a contrarian view from Silicon Valley, because a lot of people in Silicon Valley have this mysticism, or I don't know, maybe it's marketing, but a lot of people working in AI believe that, you know, we're gonna, you know, it's as human as humans, and there's nothing about it that it thinks, as long as it mimics us, there's nothing about it that is like, you know, less than us, and at some point it might be superior to us, or might be super intelligence. That's what everyone's working on, and they have this utopian vision of like, oh, it's going to solve all the problems, which kind of feels like communism a little bit. Yeah. We're just going to like put it in charge and just going to like, you know, we're going to live in fully automated space communism, which again, I am against. You know, this is why I came to this country. This is why I love America. We'll get our guns and shoot it.
Exactly.
I'll fucking destroy this thing.
Come to Texas. You won't be safe in San Francisco. That's for sure. You're dead.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta move.
Yeah, I am not excited about some of the future that some of these AI leaders are putting out, which is an all-knowing, whole super machine that will make decisions on our behalf and do all of that stuff. Just know and really understand and internalize that this is still a computer. We know how a computer works. And it can tell you it loves you. It can tell you it's feeling you, but it's just not true. It is a mimicking machine. It is useful. You should make use of it. It is entertaining. It is fun. You can get advice from it. But no, ultimately, it doesn't have a human experience. It doesn't have lived experience that you can get an advice from someone who actually been through shit, understands what it means to be a human.
I love that. Okay, so what would you leave us with? I want to end with one quote by you, and then I want to ask you one last question, which is, you had a quote on Twitter that I loved, which said, I landed in the United States 10 years ago with nothing but credit card debt. After one startup exit, one big tech job, and one unicorn, I genuinely believe that it wouldn't have been possible anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
I love that quote because I think increasingly it's become cool to become cynical about freedom in this country. And some of
Yeah.
my closest, dearest friends who are huge thinkers, Balaji Srinivasan is one
Yeah.
of them, for
Yeah.
instance, who thinks I'm crazy for still
Yeah.
believing in this place.
Yeah. I didn't know you were friends with Balaji. That's great.
Yeah, I love him.
Me too.
But I deeply disagree with him, or at least I deeply
Oh, me too.
hopefully disagree with him
Yeah.
on a few things.
Yeah.
And he does with me too,
Yeah.
in like the most beautiful way.
Yeah.
But what do you think we have to be like super hopeful today?
Yeah. Look, I mean, ultimately, freedom of speech, still no other place on the planet has freedom of speech. There are things that if you say, you go to jail in Europe. I think people go to jail for having debates about gender
Everything?
or
Yeah.
having debates on history. And that's Europe, right?
Yeah.
Imagine other places in the world, right? So freedom of speech is very important. I think being able to arm yourself and protect yourself, and potentially if the government becomes really bad and tyrannical, maybe you can fight against it. I think that's important. That's really important thing about this country. I think the markets in this country is still some of the best, the most liberalized. Consumers want more and they want to learn more things and they want to use more things. You can give them things that make them addicted and unhealthy. But also a lot of people want to change their lives and they want to do things that are productive and good. And there's this entrepreneurial spirit. Everyone that's come to this country is ultimately an immigrant, whether it's 500 years ago or 2 years ago. And we have it in our DNA that we're all risk takers. And there's the capital structure to support that as well. You can get funding. It's still much easier than anywhere else in the world to get some debt or backing or funding or something, or someone to take a risk on you. That's still very possible here. I think we don't have as much corruption. I mean, American corruption tends to be at the very upper echelon of politics and things like that. If you make enough money, you can go literally buy government. So,
It is true.
but if you build a business, it is very rare that you get someone take it from you, or you get scammed out of the proceeds or something like that, which is what happens all over the world. The rule of law still exists here, and for all these reasons, I think America is still the best place to be an entrepreneur. That is not to say, for the audience that are living elsewhere, because America is partly in the cloud too.
It's very true.
You can go to Stripe, create Delaware LLC using Stripe Atlas, right?
Okay.
You can incorporate a company in the US. You can do business in the US. And so it is accessible even for people not living here.
And you can sell to the US.
And you can sell to the US.
I
Yeah.
mean, somebody in Europe or in Latin America or in Africa could create something on Replit and
Right.
sell that to the US and have all your customers be US based while you're based in a country that you've, never even set foot
Exactly.
here. And that's kind of magical too.
That's amazing. That's
You
really
know?
amazing. I mean, you get access to this consumer and business environment that wants new things and hungers for new things, and it's pretty amazing. I'm as much as there's so many things in the world that are disturbing and hard, and so many things about America, like the debt crisis and all that stuff, and just like the political polarization. I'm still very bullish on the United States, on I think AI having the ability to remake our country in a more positive direction. I think we've reached the sort of the calcification of the post-industrial revolution kind of malaise, and we need another revolution. I think we're going through it right now, and I'm gonna do my best to try to make it a positive, decentralizing experience and that allows more people to kind of participate in it.
Well, I'm so excited for that. If you guys are listening today, you've got to go to Replit and build because it is so fun, and you can make money there, which I think is one of the keys to freedom overall. I also think it's really fun to follow you on X. I went down a big rabbit hole. We didn't even get to talk about half my questions, so I'll have to bring you back again. But for anybody listening today, make sure that you go check out Replit and you go to, what is your handle again on X?
Masad, AMASAD.
I know it wasn't your full name.
Yeah.
And you can see, I mean, you also post a lot of stuff there about like biohybridization of like mushrooms playing drums. I mean, it's pretty incredible. So thank you for being on today. Thank you for building something so that we can all build. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
John. Okay.
Welcome back to the Big Deal Podcast. I'm Codie Sanchez. And I found out something fascinating the other day, which is that 87% of you guys, people who watch our episodes, are not subscribed to this channel. So I have an ask for you all. If you could subscribe to the channel, this is the way that we grow. We can have bigger guests. We can hire the right team members. And it's only really through you guys doing this one simple thing. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, can I ask you a favor this week? Can you hit that subscribe button? Thank you. Truly, we can't do this without you. You've built sleeper businesses basically as a career, it feels like, crazy side hustles, then grew them into actual companies. These are cash flow producing, non-venture backed companies. Almost anybody could start if they were willing to take the risk and do the hard thing of actually working them. Is there one that you're like currently obsessed with now? Or is there like a business that you're obsessed with at the moment?
Man, it's like asking which kid is my favorite. I just love business. So so I was in Cameron, Missouri last week, population 8,000 people. I pull into this hardware store and I see this cute couple, 30s, kids out by the road selling pizzas, right? I have like an outdoor kitchen with an authentic pizza oven. I geek out over it. And so I had to talk to these guys. They've got like a $700 pizza oven, a $100 like a pop-up canopy, and they're just slinging these authentic pizzas. And so I'm like, how much money are you making here? And $700 a day. Their kids make the pizzas, they wave signs. And I said, well, what do you pay? They're in the parking lot of a hardware store. What do you pay to be here? Well, nothing. Like, they just hope that we can bring them customers and they bring us customers. This is like middle of nowhere, middle America, right? Like, and they're making $700 a day, 80% margins, selling pizzas from an oven that they bought at Home Depot, right? Like, I just love stuff like that because who couldn't do that? Like, who couldn't do that business if they really had to make some money?
Isn't that wild? And if you just like, for people who aren't, who are public school math kids like me, I mean, if you take, let's round it to 1,000 times 30 days in a month, we're talking about that's a $30,000 a month business.
Yeah.
If you have 80% margins, we're talking about you're taking home a top 1% level salary, $200,000+.
But how many people in Cameron, Missouri are saying, oh, there's just no opportunities here?
I know. You know what else kills me that I think you prove a lot and is like one of the missions of this company? It's like your shirt. You can just do things. And in fact, I think you'll be shocked by how often people don't charge you.
Yeah.
Like we did this whole experiment with vending machines where we put vending machines in a bunch of different locations. And then we did videos about them and shared the numbers. And everybody was like, you left out the rent. I'm like, I didn't pay rent.
Yeah.
I know that you can theoretically, and you might have to sometimes, but like, I just didn't in this case. And so I love that story. I was curious for you, is there one business that you've seen like ever that you're just like, this business is such a sleeper and almost anybody could start it?
So a year ago, we own a tree trimming business, right? And tree trimming businesses are great. I call it a binary outcome, right? The customer needs a tree gone, you show up, the tree's gone, 5-star review, invoice paid, right? Whereas other businesses, it's just like custom home building. It's not. There's so much that could go wrong. But stump grinding is kind of a pain in tree trimming because, if you're a tree trimmer, you got a truck with a chainsaw, and if you got to grind the stump, it's like, I got to go to the rental place, put it on my trailer, gas it up, pay $300 to rent it, charge $300 to grind it. It's just a pain. So I was talking with my business partner about this, and we thought, I bet there's a world where you could be a business-to-business stump grinding business. And that wasn't really a thing, right? So we're just riffing on this on my podcast, and as an experiment, because I'm curious and I have to get my questions answered, right? So I scraped every tree trimming business in Houston, and I'm in Dallas. And so I wanted like a sister city that was comparable. And I hired a virtual assistant to call up every tree trimming business and say, hey, who grinds your stumps? Do you own a stump grinder? Do you rent them? Theoretically, if you could ever outsource that entirely to a stump grinding business that only served tree trimming businesses, would you do it? If so, what would you pay? And the results were incredible. Like 20% of these tree trimmers would love to outsource it. And so we were just talking about this, and people went out and started business-to-business stump grinding businesses based on this theory and research. And this one guy made $300,000 his first year. And he rented the thing, and he rented the trailer, and he wasn't wealthy, but he's making like 60-70% margins grinding stumps for these tree trimming businesses.
I love it. Well, boring businesses that's my love language.
Yeah.
But what I think is interesting is two things. One, it doesn't take that much to get the research, right? You literally just cold called, or in this case, because you have an assistant, had somebody else cold call a bunch of people and ask them 3 or 4 questions. And the other case of the pizza company, you just were willing to do the thing most people won't, which is, how much revenue do you make a day?
Yeah.
Like, how often do people not give you the answer to that question? I'd be curious.
Rarely, honestly.
Right?
You just have to ask.
I would say it's like 95% of the time they tell you. And why? Because they're proud of it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you've ever ran a business and you know what it feels like to actually get somebody to pay you for your service, how hard it is.
Yeah.
You want to tell people.
Yeah.
You know, I am old now, and so my back has been hurting, which is so on par. And so I go to this PT. And he was telling me a story about his background. And I'm like, that's incredible. And I started telling him the percentage of percentage of businesses that actually hit 100,000, then 1 million, then 10 million a year. It's kind of rare, actually. And so he was like, can I tell you my revenue number? And I was like, yeah, tell me, what is it? He's like, 310,000. I'm like, that's amazing, because you don't have any employees either, right? So he's got an 80% margin business.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Now with your tree trimming business, when did you start that?
2 years ago.
And how much cash did you have to start it with?
I had cash to start it with, but I grew up poor, right? And so I always like to say constraints equal creativity. And I've never been VC funded. I've tried to raise money. It's a lot harder than people think. And so I've been forced to be creative, right? And that's never left me. Now to this day, like I can afford to do certain things, but I'm so cheap and or willing to be creative that I don't have to. So with the tree trimming business, I had a truck. I found a young, hungry entrepreneur that had just graduated from college, and I knew how to start it because I had helped a friend do it as a favor a couple of years prior. And so we didn't own a chainsaw. We still don't own a chainsaw. We just found subcontractors and subbed it all out to them. And so
can you explain what that is, subcontractors, if people don't know?
Yeah, so we just found tree trimming businesses that did the work themselves. And we just said, hey, we're going to quote $1,600 for this. What would you quote? $800. Okay, cool. We're just going to mark up all of your quotes to us 100%. And we'll take that margin. We'll bring you jobs. We'll keep you busy. Cool.
Yeah, that's wild. And now how big is that business? Do you share the revenue numbers?
Yeah, I mean, we're doing $500,000 a year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And this is you and a kid who was in college?
Yeah, he's the operating partner.
And how old is he now?
He's 23.
Wow.
Yeah, he had no experience in the industry.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And do you think, like, what's the formula? So let's say somebody right now has no money or they've lost all their money and they want to go out and start a business. What is the formula that you need to be able to have a cash flowing business that you start?
Yeah. Well, you can't have no money and pride. That doesn't work, right? So you have to be willing to work and you have to be humble enough to go like ask people for things or to go sell. If you have pride and you're broke at the same time, I don't know what to do for you, right? So the formula is to be curious about the world and to answer those questions you have about these potential opportunities immediately, right? You're familiar with habit stacking, right? If we want to do 20 push-ups every morning, we should probably do it right after we brush our teeth because pairing those two habits together makes us more likely to do it. So I'm only kind of connecting the dots looking back. I didn't do this intentionally, but as I look back on why I've started so many things, it's because I genuinely love commerce, business, entrepreneurship. And so I'll go to a restaurant and wonder, man, how much are these guys doing? And then I'll answer that question immediately. I pair the habit of getting the question with the habit of answering it. And then that kind of trains me to act, to have a bias for action. And then if you stack that up over years, you end yourself having started 75 businesses, and it can get a little stressful, but it's very fun.
That's okay. You could kill some babies, right?
Yeah.
Or sell them. That's my preferred method.
That's right.
God, I've started and bought so many businesses. And it's why we stopped saying how many businesses we own. Because I'm like, if I say 30 today, I know that 2 of those businesses I'm probably going to sell.
Yep.
I might close another one. And it started to feel like not very authentic.
Yeah.
And then also, it's not always a good thing to own 26 businesses.
Yeah.
It's probably better to own 1 or 3 that are way bigger
I agree.
than 26. So I was like, people think it's cool. I'm like, man, something's always going wrong. So it's not, just start with 1, you know, just 1. So if, in that instance, I'm sort of curious, like you started this business with this guy. How did the guy like show that he was competent enough to be your operator? So if like somebody young is watching this and they're like, man, I want to go pitch Chris or Cody or whatever rich person I know on a business to start.
Yep.
What do I have to present in order for you to say, I'm going to give you 50% of this company?
Yeah. I kind of regret what I'm about to say, but it's the truth. So I've noticed a direct correlation, you probably have too, between the people that have just gone all out to get my attention and then their performance after I hire them or partner with them, right? Whereas some reach out kind of half-heartedly.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes I've hired them in the past and it was just, they kind of did a half-hearted job. But the people that are like, just blowing me up everywhere. Like, I will do this. I will do this. Like, I promise I'll be your hardest worker. I don't know anything. I'm humble, but I'm willing to do all the work. That was James. He had never had a home service business. He had like flipped iPhones on Facebook Marketplace, but he was just hungry. And so I like to look for humility, gratitude, someone who's like, I'm just so grateful for this opportunity, and some sort of an entrepreneurial gene, right? Because I don't want to make them entrepreneurial. They have to have that. If they have those three things, then it's almost 100% certain they'll be successful.
Yeah, I always loved the Munger quote where he says, if you're going to have a mistress, pick an old one because she'll be grateful for it. And I think that it's true of business partners too. He used to, describe Buffett as the best thing that we have in our partnership is we're both grateful for it. I think that's true in marriage. It's true in business.
Absolutely.
And so if you could optimize for intelligence, history, sophistication, or hunger and gratitude, go left, not right. Love that. Okay, so let's say that there's somebody listening who has zero time on their hands. Maybe they actually have money, but they don't have time. What business would you tell them to do, or what would you tell them to start?
That's a good question. I would say that they should start liquidating things. Buying things from like Costco overstock. There's a half a dozen websites out there that sell pallets of returned items, defective items, or items that might be perfect. You just don't know. Like you could buy a pallet full of Blackstone grills for $100, right? So someone like that has some money to buy stuff like that, and it doesn't have a lot of time. They can start by selling a few things on the side, learning how it all works, and then partnering with someone like James, my business partner in the tree business, to do it for him. But I think it's very important that you don't outsource things too quickly. You really got to get in the weeds so you can recognize the weeds before you get out of the weeds, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's really hard to hire well until you've done well.
Yeah.
And so first do good, then hire good. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, and you kind of have highlighted all these different businesses. I want to go over some of the best in the works. We actually took one of your ideas off of Twitter. We didn't give you enough credit for it. So we got an internet duel. But and we did it here in the office.
Yeah.
And we basically, the idea was, can you buy things off Facebook Marketplace and have AI do everything for you? And my too long didn't read at the end was like, no, like you got to, there's some human
Still
in the
early.
loop. Yeah.
Yeah.
But for people who are entrepreneurs and hungry, I think both you and I, it was like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Like once you start to play the game, you realize just that 20% off your stack is so valuable.
Yeah.
So if like right now you had to look at all the side hustles, all the businesses that exist, what do you think are the three best, most underrated side hustles?
Okay. All right. So you say right now, I'm going to take that literally. So we're in August, and I came across this woman last year who decorates porches with pumpkins. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, I saw it because of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Dallas chick, wasn't she?
Heather. We've since become friends. And she's making over $1 million a year just buying wholesale pumpkins from someone that anyone could Google and find a wholesale pumpkin supplier. Buys them by the truckload and decorates them on porches. And it's a beautiful business because it's so visual. If you put your iPhone on a tripod, put it on time lapse, post that to Instagram, the algorithm loves it, right? So there's all your customers. And that's what she's done. And she does an amazing job, and she's an amazingly hard worker. So I'm not downplaying, like, it's just a good idea. Anyone can do it. It's very profitable. She charges between $600 and $1,300 to decorate a porch with pumpkins. I'm a customer. My wife loves it. And I love this opportunity because you could start with almost nothing, an Instagram account, a little money for pumpkins, and then you could make it not seasonal. She prefers for it to be seasonal. She wants to be with her family during Christmas, but there are people that do this for Christmas decorations. I talked to a guy in Pennsylvania that does it for front porch flower decorations. He charges a few $100s a quarter, and he'll swap out flowers every month.
I'd pay for that.
Yeah, and he's in Long Island. Like this stuff would work anywhere. And it's very visual. It goes viral very naturally. That's one, because it's high margin, it's unique, and you don't need a lot of money to do it.
You know what the other thing about that one is? When you don't have a lot of money, you don't realize how much money other people have.
Yeah.
And that they want, like, the thing about rich people, they want to spend their money.
Yep.
And so I remember when I was broke and poor, the idea of some mom putting $1,300 to put pumpkins on their front yard in Dallas would be crazy. And then you drive in Highland Park and you're like, these bitches, they spend a lot more than $1,300, right?
Yeah.
Like Dallas decorations are another
They
brand,
are.
but every state has city centers like that.
Yep.
So that's really smart. Okay, so first we're going front porch decoration.
All right. So I met this guy in Utah that this is a business you could literally start with no money. And I mean that genuinely. As long as you have a friend with a truck or a trailer and you have some humility, like we talked about, he goes on Facebook Marketplace and he buys washers and dryers, or he'll get them for free because people give them away all the time. They're moving, their lease ends tomorrow. They got to get it out, right? And then he goes back to Facebook Marketplace and rents them out for $100 to $200 a month to people that live in apartments that have hookups that don't want to buy it because they're afraid it's going to break. He rents them out and he's making 6 figures a year. Working 5 hours a week. He has another company. He has an RV park. He's doing all kinds of stuff. This is just one of his businesses. But what's more approachable than that? Like, you're going to have to carry a washer upstairs. It's going to be hot. It's going to suck. You're going to have some that get stolen from you. But find me a business that doesn't have problems. Right? I'm still waiting for that one.
Find me a job that doesn't have problems. Let's go low level. Okay, I like it. What do we think about the third one? I like also that there's one that like women are going to do. You're probably not decorating pumpkins on a porch. Your wife might though.
Yeah.
And then your wife is probably not schlepping big machines.
Yep.
But you might.
Yep.
Okay, what's our third?
All right, so HVAC companies. They have these service contracts, either commercial or residential, where they check in every 6 months, make sure everything is working. Part of that contract is they have to clean the coils on the outside of the units. That's just like a preventative maintenance. But that's a pain for them because you got to have water, you got to hook up water, you got to have chemicals, and it just doesn't go into their normal workflow. So this guy that I met, he owned a pressure washing company. He started doing that for HVAC companies and saying, I'll just do all your coil cleaning. And then he got a grocery store customer just by walking into the grocery store. Can I talk to the manager? Who does your coil cleaning? These guys, but they forget sometimes. They hate doing it. It's the worst part of their job. But that's another good framework, right? Find a business that does something, find the things that they hate doing, and just kind of unbundle that, right? So now this guy, his whole business is washing the coils outside of these grocery store HVAC units. And he says that he never loses a customer. It pays him, I think it's like $500,000-$600,000 a year in this random rural area that you would never think this opportunity exists. And he's like, this is my secret weapon. Like, and he's owned a bunch of businesses. He's like, this is the best business I've ever had.
That's so interesting. You know what else is true also? You go up the ladder of entrepreneurship. And so when somebody's like, that's a terrible business, which I hear sometimes. I'm like, maybe for you,
Yeah.
if you're making $1 million a year and you're a software engineer, probably not a great business for you. But like one of my favorite businesses back in the day was a podcast production studio. I bought part of it. It was great. It was a service business. Actually, the podcast production was all remote. So it was just like you ship in the, video edits and they would edit for you, thumbnail, title, et cetera. So I owned part of that business and then I sold it back to the owner at some point. People are like, why? If you're making a couple $100,000 a year in a business, why? It was just too small at that stage. And so, but for Jonathan, the guy who took it over, he still runs that business. He loves that business.
Yeah.
And he's really happy at the level. He actually doesn't want it to grow. He's like, $500K a year business, perfect. Like, I don't want anything else. And so I think people underestimate how there's like, not everybody has a size 10 shoe. You're probably
12 and a half.
What? You're tall. That's big.
right.
Yeah, it'd be kind of weird if you had a size 6,
Yeah, it'd be weird.
Yeah, I can't let the internet know that if that was the case. It would roast you. Okay, let's talk about worse businesses. So if you had no money again, or we're just starting out, but we're going to save people decades of mistakes and hours, what are the businesses that you would never touch with a 10-foot pole?
I'm going to talk about binary outcomes again. Okay. So, oh man, I had a third-party logistics business once. And basically e-commerce brands would come to us and we would store their products in a warehouse, pick, pack, and ship them out for them, right? We were doing $400,000 a month and not making any money. It was a miserable business because it did not have binary outcomes. So the business owner, our customer, was like so emotionally invested in his inventory. Hey, I did that big sale. Why haven't they shipped yet? Hey, these went to the wrong address. Hey, my inventory went stale because maybe it was food. Aren't you keeping track of these expiration dates? There were hundreds of things that could go wrong. And literally, if you click the wrong thing, you could ship 3,000 packages to 3,000 wrong homes. Ask me how I learned that, right? And those aren't our packages, which makes it even worse, right? Yeah. So we were making all this money top line, with no profit, losing money, right? It was not a binary outcome. It's not a simple business. We were competing with like Amazon. Who's going to do that? So anything, like I've started 75, 80 businesses. The common thread between all of them are just non-binary outcomes. Too complex, not simple.
Yeah. Okay. So worst is 3PL. What's your second and third?
Oh man, house cleaning.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Why house cleaning?
It was just a lot of ways to screw up. It was.
I guess same thing.
Yeah. There's a hair, you left a hair on the floor.
Oof.
Or you scuffed the baseboard. No, we didn't. That was there first. Like, all for $150, you know? Yeah. Like, there are businesses where that stuff is worth it, right? Where like those headaches are worth it. But if it's low ticket and complex, stay away.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree with that. What's the third?
Custom home building.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever do that?
Yeah. Well, I had a business partner that was a custom home builder, and he branched off, and we started starting one together, and that was like headache to the extreme, right? On one hand, you have a homeowner that's putting their life savings in something that they're going to live in forever. These were nice homes. And on our side, we had permit issues, weather issues, subcontractor issues, insurance issues, so many things that could go wrong. And I've built a custom home for myself. I've been on both sides of it. Stay away. Like high ticket, but even at like $1 million home, it's just not worth it.
What price point home do you think it starts becoming worth it?
Multiple millions.
Yeah. I think that's almost the secret in every business is that if you're not, it's not if you're not good, but like you have to have enough margin in the business to be able to deal with all of the headache from mistakes.
Yes.
And like more margin, more you can handle mistakes.
Yeah.
Like you're like, all right, you pay me enough for that, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, because I have a couple of friends that are custom home builders, but they're at the $10 to $12 million mark. And at that amount, you're making millions of dollars on every home. You're like, sure, Nancy, the tile's wrong. Ship it back to Italy. No problem, right?
Because your margin affords it. Yeah.
Right. But if you're doing it on $1 million home, which to young Cody, I'd be like, that's so much money.
Yep.
Not in home building, it's not. So you actually can't get compensated enough for that. And that's the real magic of entrepreneurship is getting enough reps where you can kind of just look at a business and go, oh, that's not going to work that way.
Yep.
And the only way to do that is just to get in the game, right?
Yeah, you got to, and stay in the game.
Yeah, and keep playing it. The richest people in the world didn't just build, they bought. They didn't come from riches. They used other people's money and a ridiculous amount of sweat. People will tell you you can't. Yet didn't you know there isn't a multi-billion-dollar business out there that didn't do some type of acquisition? Amazon, 110 companies bought. Facebook, 96. The Sage of Omaha himself started buying a gumball route. They didn't listen to those who said they couldn't. They found aging owners, made connections, took risk, repeated. Today, the hardest thing to do isn't buy a company. It's start and keep a profitable business. Around here, we don't hope and pray for profits. We buy them. Real businesses, 56,000 of them, real profits, custom deal box so you can swipe left and right at your pleasure, maps, find businesses close to you, off-market deals where no one else is even looking. This is how you become an owner. Let's talk about, dude, I heard a ridiculous story of yours that you're like, which one?
It's probably true.
About Texas snacks and the Buc-ee's heist.
Yeah. Oh, heist. That's a good word. I like that. So for those that aren't familiar with Buc-ee's, it's a chain of gas stations. They do billions of dollars a year from 50 locations, right? It's just an amazing business, privately held. And it's an amazing brand. It's like a Disney, right? They have a great brand. And so I went there 6 years ago and I walked in and with my cousin, who's also a business nerd. And we were like, he said, he's like, do you know Disney sells like, I'm making this up, I don't remember the number, but like 15 billion a year of shirts. Yeah. I was like, I didn't know that. That's crazy. I wonder how much these guys sell online of their shirts. So we go to their website and I distinctly remember there's no shop button. It's like, where do you buy these shirts? And these gas stations are in these far-flung rural areas. And so you can't get to it unless you're going down to the beach, right? And so that was just like a light bulb moment. And it was at this time that I was running that fulfillment business. And so we thought, wow, we need to get them as a customer. And instead of just like fulfilling their products, we're going to bring them online and fulfill their products. This could be a white whale for us, right? So I start reaching out to the executive team. No response, no response. So we're like, what if we just try to get their attention by launching the business for them? And then just cold emailing reporters and saying, Buc-ee's won't answer us, so we're going to launch this business for them.
Good.
Yeah. And his first question is like, Chris, we're going to get sued. And I was like, that's going to be a good story though. Right? If we get sued, then we can just say, okay, leave me alone. I'm done.
Exactly.
I'm done. But I was like, but what if we don't get sued? It could be a big business. It could be a big partnership. It could be tens of millions of dollars. Who knows? And so my business partner and I, we bought one of everything from the store near my house. It cost about $3,000. I hired a photographer for $200. We took pictures of everything in their store, put it on a website, cold emailed reporters and said, we want to get Buc-ee's attention. So we're selling everything that they own online for them. And they said, that's a great story. We had a dozen news outlets write about us and we went viral and did $200,000 of sales in our first month. And we do millions of dollars a year now, 5 years later.
You're still doing it today?
Yeah. It's a great business.
I bet. So you're the one responsible for all the Buc-ee's merch I now see all over the country.
That's right. We don't have like an official partnership with them, but we have an understanding and they support us. They help us buy it in bulk, but we just resell it. We go to one of their stores, we load up a box truck full of pallets, bring it back to our warehouse and sell it online, ship it all over the world.
That is insane.
Yeah.
So you're not even actually their like licensed provider?
Nope.
That's so Texas. I
Yeah.
love that. They're
Very
like,
Texas.
yeah, fuck it. You're going to buy it at a full price. Go ahead, man.
Yep.
Oh my God, that's so good.
I like doing things where like worst case is a good story
Yeah.
because most people don't have good stories, right?
That's such a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Because that is the game of entrepreneurship.
Do it for the story. Someone put that on a t-shirt. Do it for the story.
Yeah. I think the kids say do it for the plot. I think that's
Sure.
what the Gen Zers say today. That's what my non-Gen Zers in this room say. But they, I think you're right. You know, a lot of times, I'm sure you get asked this question too. Well, I want to create content and be on the internet. So what do I talk about? I'm like, if you want to be interesting, you got to do interesting shit.
Yeah.
So before you get online and like try to talk about a bunch of stuff you haven't done, go do the thing.
Yeah.
Because you're not suffering from stories.
Right.
Why? Because you're
Yeah.
doing wild things
Yeah.
all the time. Yeah, I'm trying really hard to get one of our portfolio companies, Pinks, and they're a window cleaning company.
Mm-hmm.
They have an incredible brand. And I'm trying to get them, I'm like, all the dudes are good looking, right? They're like good looking, young, wholesome guys. I'm like, we need a sudsy calendar. Like, I think
that's
it
a great
would
idea.
kill it. You know what I should
Yeah.
do? Do their photos without their permission and put it on the
You
internet.
should. You should.
I'm going to say, Chris, maybe do it. But I laughed with them because, you know, we're moving into commercial. So they do a lot more commercial work now, but they do a lot of residential. And that usually goes through the lady of the house.
Yeah.
And there's this like idea of a cute pool boy that's already been created in the zeitgeist, right? You don't exactly go, God, my window cleaner was a real looker yesterday.
Yeah.
That's not like a thing. But with this company, you kind of do. So we've played into it slightly with the marketing, and it's funny and it's cute.
Yeah.
And most of these guys are like Christian, married, super wholesome, but they do it for the plot. They like don't take themselves that serious.
Yeah.
And so the two founders, you know, you have like, I don't know, 170 locations or something now. And their one business does $3 million a year, just like their Austin-based business. But they're doing kick flips and, you know, putting ridiculous thing in their Instagram because they don't have a lot of ego about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
They're not too precious, and they do it for the plot. Do it for the
That's so
story.
good.
All right, somebody make a shirt for Chris.
Do it. Yeah. Do it
Yeah,
for the
we'll wear it on the podcast. All right, did you get into? Go tell me.
No, I was with the Pinks guys. I have an idea, so I got to get it out.
Tell me.
Yeah, so you should make those calendars.
Yeah.
because that would be viralable.
Wouldn't it?
Right? It would be
Okay,
so
thank
good.
you. I thought so.
And then you should take your whole customer database and find commonalities by the zip code of like what type of they probably already know this, but like our average customer has a $732,000 home. We charge $350 a quarter. That's $1,400 a year, and they stay for 5 years,
Yeah.
right? So $7,000 lifetime value, right? Okay, what would we pay to acquire that customer? Let's say $500. What does it cost to print and ship a calendar? Let's say $20. Okay, worst case. They should scrape all of the homes that fit that criteria, the demographic of the owner, the race, the gender, everything, and permissionlessly ship them that calendar for free.
Such a good
And
idea.
they're going to hang it and they're going to look at that Pinks logo every time they see it.
And they're going to put it on Instagram.
And
They're going to
put it on
tag
Instagram,
that everywhere.
and that $20 could return 20,000, right? Why wouldn't you do that?
100%. Well, that is the thing, I think about it a lot here at this company. So I'm in finance. So, I bought companies, I sold companies. I never really thought about marketing. In finance, you don't do ads.
Yeah.
You don't market.
You can't really.
You can't. There's all these regulations about them. And if you do, you have to keep them for 7 years. It's kind of a crazy thing. And so now that we've come here, I've started to really appreciate that most marketing is so boring.
Yeah.
Is so
bad.
boring. And I get why, because it's embarrassing when you put your face on YouTube and you're making a stupid face and you're like actually slightly more sophisticated, fingers crossed, than you are portrayed on the internet.
Yep.
You can have ego about that. Or you can be like, do I want to look rich or do I want to be rich?
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
You got to make a choice, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm like an extreme introvert. I don't like going out. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
I'm posting these videos in the comfort of my own home, but going outside is like not for me. And so like the thought of short form videos was just like so foreign to me.
Interesting.
But there's a whole world on the other side of cringing at yourself, right? Because at the end of the day, like no one even cares.
Nobody cares.
Like the guy at church or your neighbor who sees that video of you talking about, he doesn't care. He's not thinking about you. No. So just do it.
Yeah. One of my best mentors ever told me there's somebody who is dumber than you are, has worse products than you are, isn't as good as you are, and they're making more money than you do because they're willing to sell.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, thanks, Bob. But he was right,
Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about, you just have so many stories. I want to run through a bunch of these companies, and hopefully for, if you're listening online, I think the thought is, like, take these as these little moments of inspiration, just like you did. You're like, oof, what about this?
Mm-hmm.
So it might not be that somebody's going to go pitch Buc-ee's and create a whole t-shirt empire, but it might be like right off of it, like slightly asymmetric,
Yeah.
So I want to talk about pet cremation because that's the obvious next thing you go
Uplifting
to.
topic.
Yeah. That's awful. My dog's here. Hide the dog.
It's so hot
from
right now,
Chris.
by the way.
Is it really?
Cremation, so hot right now. I had to.
Is that a dad joke?
I have four
You have
kids. Yeah.
I love a dad
had
joke.
to.
Okay, let's talk pet cremation.
Okay.
What happened?
I had a friend that worked in private equity, and he had seen the inside of some deals, some pet cremation deals that looked really, really good. 92% gross margins. We have more puppies in the United States than children today. As of 2 years ago, like the line officially crossed. More puppies than kids, right? So extract from that what you will. But there's an opportunity there. Everyone bought puppies during COVID. Those puppies are 5 years old now. And unfortunately, they will die. And cremation is exploding in popularity. So I like to look for businesses that ride several tidal waves at once, several trends, right? And so you've got the puppy boom, you got people buying puppies, you have people preferring cremation for whatever reason, and then you have my friend that had an inside look into the industry. And so that same friend, luckily, also had a friend that was a veterinarian that owned a very high volume clinic. Like he did as much business as 6 clinics, right? And he was able to say, hey, if we start a pet cremation business, would you work with us instead of who you're currently working with? Sure. So we just kind of had that relationship. And so we started looking at these burners, and they're like $100,000 to $300,000 each. And then we thought, oh, man, I don't usually do that. I don't put hundreds of thousands into businesses, right? I'm scrappy. And so we thought, okay, well, what if we could just play middleman and just have a refrigerated van where we just play puppy logistics, if you will, okay? Pick up the puppies, puppy pickup, and then deliver them to the cremation facility that's already invested $500,000 into equipment because they want to be in the cremation business, not the logistics business. And that's one thing that we learned. We interviewed a few of them and say, what's the pain point in your business? Something we've already talked about. And they said, sales and logistics. What if we do both of those for you? My friend had another friend that had been acquiring veterinarian clinics. So he had contacts in the industry. So he said, all right, there's our sales. Here's our first customer that's worth 6 customers. Put the pieces together. Let's spend $15,000 on a refrigerated van, and we're in business. And so we capture a margin between the cremation facility and the veterinarian.
God, that's so smart. So it's almost like you see an opportunity in an industry and you go, okay, what's the most direct route? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, cremation. But then you say, my constraints are I want to spend less than $50,000. Yep. So if I can't get into that aspect for $50,000, where can I find just
part of the business. So instead of taking everything from I'm going to get the lead for the puppy to I'm going to deliver the puppy to I'm going to cremate the puppy to I'm going to like have a certificate I give the family or whatever, I'm just going to take this step.
Yep.
And because I only take this step, it doesn't cost me all of this to start it. That's really clever.
Yeah.
It's like breaking down the business to the chunk you can afford.
Yeah. And the thing about that step that's a headache to them is if it's all you do, it's not a headache because all your systems are built around that one thing. So it's a win-win for both parties.
Yeah. And so you're basically doing the opposite of what most companies do, which is like they might do vertical or horizontal integration where they go buy these things. You're saying, let me do the opposite. Let me remove a portion of somebody's business. I can build an entire stack on it. And then if I want to add on and compete more, I can.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I get to just start.
Yeah. And now what we can do is we can go the vet route and go into clinics and sell them, or we can go to the cremation facilities and say, hey, I know what your margins are, because I know the business. What if you give us 30% of that margin and we'll take care of all of your headaches, right? So you can streamline your operations. You can net out ahead, even though your top line revenue comes down, and it'll be a win-win.
Yeah, I love that. Also, it's so much easier to start a business when you can sell to people who are already doing the thing that you want them to do. It's really hard to create an industry. Like, for instance, we try to talk people into this idea that we should not let these businesses die, that you should buy them, and that you should do it creatively. You shouldn't always have to go to the bank and be a millionaire to do it. It's not easy. It's hard. There's lots of components of it, but it's totally possible. The problem with that is you're like talking them into a change in lifestyle.
Yeah.
It's actually not a very good business. It's like more something that I just think we should do. But if instead you're going to a business owner, they already have the pain point. They already have the cash to solve it. All you're doing is removing work from them. Like that's a really interesting model.
Yeah.
I typically don't think about businesses that way. So I like that.
Cool.
The funny part though about pet cremation, to your point on like people don't realize what people pay for. Like what does it cost to get a pet cremated?
Oh, $250 to $500.
God, my dad's going to kill me for this story, but when my favorite dog died, he was obsessed with the dump truck. Like, you know how the trash truck, the dogs and shit. And so he died and his name was Elvis. He was this amazing little Cocker Spaniel. And so, my dad told me, and so I came by the next day. I'm like, well, where's Elvis buried? What happened? And he's like, oh no, I took him to his favorite spot. And I'm like, what do you mean by that?
What does that mean?
Yeah. And he just put him in a bag and gave him to the dump truck. And I was like, I think that's illegal. I think that's right. He was like, he would be thrilled.